Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see what happens. I'm Mary Grace. We have a crazy situation happening here uh, with the Wi-Fi. Goodness gracious. Let's just see what happens. Hold on. It's hard to tell. Okay, let me see if we're live on my channels. Wow. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Unbelievable. Let's see. Give me a comment if you can see me here on the live. This is a little bit crazy. Comment on all of the channels. I apologize to everybody who is watching, who's trying to make sense of this. Uh, is my Rumble audience live? That's what I need to know. Just me, DSP on Rumble. I believe that you are correct in saying that I'm being prevented from streaming. Okay, Terry can see me. We've got great. Here we go. Mary Grace here. And as you may have noticed, there's somebody missing based on the title of this stream. We had General Flynn here in the green room and we were ready to go. Um, and let's see. Hold on a second. Okay. So, yeah. Now, I want to explain something to somebody. This is crazy. Uh, for those of you who haven't caught on yet, this is real. This we are at war. We are in a battle for all of it, all the things, all the communication. I know that this stream is going to be suppressed. I know that not many people are going to see this, but I want you to get this out and I'll tell you why. Because I have had General Flynn on my calendar for over a month to come on and do a live stream with you. This is something that I've scheduled, I believe, like almost 2 months ago. And it's hard to get him on my calendar. And I did a live stream yesterday on Facebook, and at the end of my Facebook Live, I casually mentioned that General Flynn was gonna be on the show today, and then a couple of hours ago, I sent out an email, and I sent out an email, um, and then I loaded up the Rumble. I didn't even load the Rumble up last night because I didn't want to give too much advance notice to the bad actors that I had General Flynn coming on the show. And I want to stay on because I want people to understand what's happening. And if you have if you're still in that camp where you're not quite sure how serious of an issue we're dealing with here and how high the stakes are, and if you're one of those people that thinks, um, I'm not sure about General Flynn. I think he's one of them. I think he's playing for the other team. I want to ask you something because this isn't the first time that I have had technical issues when I have tried to bring General Flynn on my show. In fact, it seems like it's every time. I've had audio issues, we've had streaming issues. Today, I can't even tell you what was happening with my internet, okay? My main internet went out. I got a message from Xfinity saying there's an urgent internet issue that we have to fix right now. and you should have service back by 3 o'clock. I kid you not. So I have a 2 o'clock stream, and they're promising restored service by 3. The Xfinity connection literally just died at 1:58 PM, all right? So then I pulled out my AT&T hotspot, got that. I've used this for internet before. I can upload things in it. And so I pulled that out, got the stream going, had General Flynn in the green room. We were just chatting away. And then I hit go live, and then everything just froze. It froze in a way that I've never ever seen my streaming software freeze before. I couldn't reload, I couldn't stop it, I couldn't X out of it, nothing. It was just literally frozen. So, of course, General Flynn only budgets a certain amount of time to come on the show. And while I'm sitting here trying to troubleshoot and literally staring at the blue screen of death, um, he's gone. We have to reschedule. But my point is, if you still think, if you've been in that camp where people are telling you that he's not on our side, then I just want to ask you, why does this happen? Why do I have interference every time he tries to come on my show? Okay? Let's just get that out there. It happens with him, it happens with Kash Patel. I'm sure that if I had one of the Trumps on, it would happen with them as well. Who are they most afraid of? Who are they most afraid of? General Flynn. Why? Because he knows where the bodies are buried and he knows who buried them. And if you haven't gotten that through your head yet, then get your head out of your okole and pay attention to what's going on. Because if you are still believing that he is trying to somehow trying to subvert Trump or work against him, that he's not on Team Freedom, then I don't even know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Before we came on the air, General Flynn was trying to explain to me because I told him, I said, look, we're on the hotspot. We were just laughing about it and, just moving on. And so before we went on air, he told me that. And then he said, now when he tries to post on Twitter, he has to designate specifically who he wants to see his tweets. He can't just post. So you tell me what's going on and why that's happening. I love General Flynn too, and I'm trying to get him rescheduled. I don't even know if I'm live on X right now. Let's just see if it's yeah, it looks like I'm live. So please share, get this out. Hopefully we'll get him back on the show. I can't really change my titles. So I don't yeah, it's not gonna let me edit. So I apologize if you're coming back to watch based on the title and you are mad because General Flynn's not here. It wasn't a bait and switch. It was a complete and total attack on my stream. Um, and those of you who've been following me before, you've seen this happen. You know that this has happened. So now that I have you here, I will continue because I've got the stream queued up. I've got everybody here, and there is a little bit of a lag because I am using my hotspot and it's not the strongest. And so we'll do the best we can. Let me see where we are on Rumble. It's got me frozen. Let's see. So here I am. Okay, talking with my hands. That's okay. Uh, I've got to pause the Rumble, but I see everybody in the chat. And so I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you that this in the few brief moments that I had with General Flynn before we tried to go live, in the few brief moments that we had, he was saying that he's not even sure still about having an election. And he said that his Twitter started to get under attack when he went after Kamala. And I just I just want people to understand the gravity of this, and then I want to address something that's come to my attention, and people are gonna get their feathers ruffled about this, and there are gonna be people who are operating under a religious spirit who are gonna be offended by what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it because it needs to be said, because the seriousness and the gravity of where we are right now as a nation cannot be overstated. I cannot even tell you the seriousness of where we are, and, and here's what's come to my attention. Uh, During the RNC, at the beginning of the RNC, it became pretty clear, or there was some question about where the RNC stands on abortion, and it was the question was, have they walked it back? Are they pro-abortion, or is there a gray area? And there's still maybe some question about that. And then there were people speaking at the RNC who didn't fit the past RNC model of what I would call the moral majority. Um, and as a result of that, some people got offended. And so now we find ourselves in a situation where conservatives conservatives are calling into question conservatives are calling into question uh, whether they even want to continue supporting Trump, because he may or may not be as orthodox a Christian as they want him to be. That's what it boils down to. So we could go into the specifics. Let me do that. So some people think that, he needs to come out and make a public confession of faith as a Christian, that he needs to come out and be very, very clear about like when he was saved. I think if he was baptized, what his plan for salvation and sanctification is. I mean, he's got to just lay it all out, because there are some people who won't be satisfied until he does that, even though he has said, I'm a Christian, even though he obviously reveres the word of God, even though he stands up for Christians and for religious freedom, even though he fulfilled his promise of getting Supreme Court justices who would return Roe v. Wade to the states. Um, in spite of all of that, he still doesn't pass the religious litmus test of some people on the right, which I find hard to believe. And now because he had because there were people at the RNC who have a somewhat questionable past, who don't fit the orthodox um, standards that these people have brought to bear. Because of that, because I think it was because Amber Rose spoke at the convention. That's according to these people, it's making them question whether they want to vote for Trump now, whether they can support him. Like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can support Trump because there were people at the RNC speaking who don't reflect my exact values as a Christian. Are you kidding me? So, do we now have a religious litmus test for people to be accepted into the conservative Republican Party? Is that where we are? So, as Christians, have we decided that we are the ones who choose who gets to uh, move over to the conservative side and who doesn't? Is it like a big club and no one else is in it? Because that's what it looks like. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I've had these conversations with some people, and it's happening at a scale that I think is a little bit crazy. And the religious spirit is functioning in the hearts of Christians, especially evangelicals. And I think what really is very interesting here is that is that uh, a lot of Christians don't even vote. A lot, a high percentage. And there's a narrative unfolding right now that I'm starting to see. Sorry for that little distraction. I was looking at uh your comments. Um, there's a narrative unfolding here. Yes, as Chills says on YouTube, are they not Christian enough? Exactly. Is 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 President Trump Christian enough? That's the question that they're really asking. How Christian is Christian? How much is enough? That's what they're asking. And so last night, President Trump was being interviewed by Laura Ingraham, and she brought up the abortion issue. And I want to bring this to your awareness because there's something that I see happening. And this is the type of thing that has been responsible for really the near destruction of Republicans and of our Republican values and our Republican agendas. Focusing on these topics, on these single issues like abortion. Now, let me just be very, very clear. I think that abortion is abomination. It is death. There is no abortion, in my opinion, that is warranted. That's me. That's where I stand scripturally. I don't think that a child should be killed because of a crime that somebody committed, because of a quote mistake or a lapse in judgment that someone committed. That's me. Other people have different opinions on that. That's between them and God. So let's be clear about that. But what I am upset with is that we have so-called Christians who are holding President Trump to a standard that not even Jesus could meet. I mean, let's be real. He's not Christian enough for them. He's not strong enough on abortion, even though he got it reversed, even though he kept a promise that every other Republican president for the last 50 years hasn't kept, and that is to reverse Roe v. Wade. He also kept a promise to return the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. Other presidents who called themselves Christians didn't do that. But somehow President Trump is not Christian enough. And so now we've got an opening for Con Inc. to drive a wedge between the Christians who have the religious spirit and the Christians who are willing to let people handle things between them and God, who are willing to let Holy Spirit be Holy Spirit. We have these people out here, these big influencers, who are now opening the door to drive a wedge and try to pull people away from voting for Trump on these single issues. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to give the Democrats, the devil, a foothold to get more and more people away from voting for Trump. Do you think this isn't intentional? Do you think that the Democrats aren't sitting there and the Uniparty and the globalists aren't behind this? Wake up, people. Stop fighting over these single issues and get unified for once in your lives because our country is on the brink. We are on the brink. And when you hear me talking like this, you know it's serious because I am the most positive and I am the first one to tell you that God can do anything. But at this point, when I look at some of the Christians, I understand why they had to wander, why the Jews had to wander in the desert for 40 years because I understand why, because Christians are so hard-headed and they can't see the forest for the trees. People are so focused on these little nitpicky aspects of what happened at the RNC and of why didn't Trump do this and why didn't he do that? The man stood up a week after being shot in the face and he confessed to all of you that he got a letter from Franklin Graham, from a pastor, telling him that he needs to watch his language, and he was 100% fully vulnerable with the whole world as a Christian, saying, "That's something I struggle with. I'm working on it." I would love to see all of these other Christians be, even a fraction as vulnerable as President Trump was in that moment. The man had just barely survived an assassination attempt, and he gets up there and just in the rawest, most humble way possible, tells you that he's struggling with something that we all struggle with, and that is your thoughts and your words. I don't know what else. I don't know how much more he could give. I don't know how much further he needs to go to convince you guys, to convince the religious spirit that he has a heart after God, that he's a man after God's heart. I don't know what he needs to do, honestly. And there are people who think that I worship Trump, that I am in a cult of Trump. No, that's not what this is. I am trying to help people understand that this is God's man for the job. Whether you like him or not, warts and all, he is the most transparent, he's the most honest, he's the most plain spoken. I mean, I want you to think about that. Really think about that. Think about the fact that he told the whole world that he got a reprimand from, like, the most famous pastor in the world. Just think about that. He didn't have to tell you that. Most of you, if you're honest, think about it. If you got a letter from your pastor admonishing you in an area of sin, obvious sin, if you got a letter like that, would you announce it to the world? Would you go, like, on social media and say, "Hey, I got this letter from my pastor, told me I really need to, like, work on my language. I know because I throw the F-bomb around and, I say things in public that probably aren't that nice, and, I use profanity, et cetera, et cetera." And then to be, self-deprecating enough to laugh at yourself and to say, like, "I'm really trying." That was such a raw, honest moment. And and yet here we are, he's not Christian enough, he's not good enough, he doesn't need to uh, he needs to be more clear on this topic, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking at a comment on Rumble here, and somebody that probably just got here late, Foxy Blue, is Flynn joining the stream? We had a major, major, major tech issue, so we're not going to have General Flynn today. Um, and then you said, "I don't know if I trust Franklin Graham." The issue isn't whether we trust Franklin Graham. That's not the point here at all. You're missing it. Just get your eyes off of Franklin Graham. It just happens that he wrote a letter to Trump, okay? Focus. Focus on what I'm saying. Focus on the fact that there are people who are so steeped in the religious spirit that they are willing to let this country crash and burn and be taken over by Marxists. And if you don't think it can happen, watch what's happened in the last 10 years in this country and look at Venezuela. Venezuela was the most prosperous and thriving country in the Western Hemisphere just over 10 years ago. And as of this moment, the country has dissolved into chaos and civil war. That's where we are. Think about that. And it's because they let in the kinds of things that we're talking about, that we're seeing right now. The Marxist agenda took over their country, the wokeism, the political correctness, all of those things that infuriate you. That's what was happening. And you guys, the people that I'm talking to, the religious spirit, you're so busy worrying about where Trump is on abortion right now and whether he truly made a confession of faith as a Christian, that you are willing to walk away from voting for him, that you're willing to throw your vote away or and not vote, abstain from voting. My revolutionary ancestors are rolling over in their graves right now because of your decisions and your behavior and your actions. It's shameful. It really is. It just I rarely get fired up about this. I rarely get fired up. But you guys know that. My listeners know that. But this is just beyond the pale what's happening, especially in the evangelical community. It's just beyond the pale. I gotta take a breath. I feel like Dan Bongino right now. I probably shouldn't watch him as much as I do lately because, like, he's always sort of, like, in that, like, borderline between rage and reason, and I gotta rein it in. So, yeah, Susan says on YouTube, "He that is without sin cast the first stone." Exactly. Exactly. I mean, this is crazy. I wanna read Terry's, comment on Facebook. Same thing. "He who is without sin cast the first stone." This has nothing to do with Trump trying to save our country. We are not a cult. We just need him back in office to keep the Democrats from destroying our country. Yeah, the first clue should be, who did they try to assassinate? Let's just go through history. Okay, who did they try to assassinate? They assassinated the people who are trying to wrestle our country back from the hands of the deep state, from the hands of the three-letter agencies, from the very entities that would usher in Marxism and communism into this country. Think about it. Every politician, every president who went against their phony money system, against the three-letter agencies, against their subversion of the American of the American way, of our Judeo-Christian values. Every single one has either been assassinated or they tried to kill them. Bottom line. And yet we've got these so-called Christians over here pearl clutching over the fact that there was somebody at the RNC that does things on the Instagram channel that doesn't fit their narrative of who should be in the Republican Party. That's what it comes down to. And so they're gonna take their toys and go home and not vote for Trump. That's it. That's the hill I'm gonna die on. That's the sword I'm gonna fall on. That's where we are. Liz says, "Take a Barley break." I don't know where Barley is. Barley and Billy are running around the house somewhere. They came running to the door because we had a big thunderstorm, and they were both, hanging they were both, like, clamoring to get in the back door. Foxy Blue, I wanna read your comment. She says, "Trump did make a confession that he's a Christian at the TPUSA last week." I do remember that, yes. And the other thing too is that I would say that, uh, I would say that, I was listening to Pastor Gary Hamrick of Cornerstone Church in, Loudoun County, and he was speaking last week, and he talked about Trump, and he made reference to the incident of the attempted assassination, and he said, he mentioned that he was praying that this situation would be one that would bring Trump closer to God. And I know that a friend of mine told me that Pastor Gary Hamrick has been in some smaller prayer gatherings with President Trump, and so I believe that that was a reference to the fact that he is of the mind that President Trump is a Christian, and that just like all of us, he's working out his salvation and going through the sanctification process. And I believe that what happened on the 13th was a watershed moment for President Trump in his faith. And we all go through that. Every one of us has a moment in life where we hit the bottom, there's some precipitating event that brings us from maybe a nominal faith to a radical faith where okay, there but for the grace of God, like this is it. I mean, I almost met my maker. And I believe that that was that moment for Trump. And when you saw him come out at his rally, when you saw him come out at the RNC, even in the interview that he did with Laura Ingraham, there was a moment where she asked him about Melania, and he said, she was watching it all live, and it really affected her, and she was very traumatized. And then, he said something to the effect that, um, I guess that's a good thing, it means she cares about me. And, the thing about Trump is that when he says things like that, it sounds like a very offhand comment, but you have to remember his generation is not one to talk about their feelings. I mean, he's like the opposite of Gen Z. He's not out there really going deep into how he feels about something, and he's really, at the end of the day, he's a pragmatist. And so even for him to say something like that, that's incredibly vulnerable. And that's why when he said what he did about the letter that he got from Franklin Graham, that I would encourage people who don't understand him and think that he's brash and that he is unfeeling or too pragmatic or whatever, to understand his generation, to understand where he grew up, the way that people communicate in the world that he grew up in, and also in the world of commercial real estate. People just don't talk about their feelings. And so for him to be that vulnerable, for somebody who's younger, who's used to talking about their feelings, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But on a relative scale of, Trump being Trump and really talking like a businessman, and most of the time, being a baller, for him to say what he did about the letter from Franklin Graham, that was a big deal. That was a big, big deal. That's what I'm trying to get across to people. And it looks like, let me just see if I'm still on. Am I still on? Am I still streaming here? Let me refresh the stream and see. Okay. Uh yeah, I think okay, here we go. I'm still here. Woo, okay. So guys, I I don't know that I need to add anything else to this, but I do want to ask you, again, forgive me. If you got here and you felt like you got a bait and switch, that was not my intention at all. As soon as I can, I will get General Flynn back on. I'm working on getting some other people here as well, Cash Patel. But also, please understand that these people are they're busy because they're working behind the scenes. I will tell you this. Let me just give you this, that people are wondering what's going to happen with Trump's administration. Let's assume that we have an election, assume that he takes office, et cetera. Hey, John in Wisconsin. So, assuming that all happens, one of the things that happened in 2016 when he took office uh, is that we saw a lot of scrambling, and there was a lot of deep state involvement in staffing his administration. I can assure you that there's a much different approach happening right now, that there are people who are working to keep his promises, to help him implement the promises that he has made, to clean house, to do a lot of what we call reduction in force um, actions almost from day one. And so a lot of the people that I would like to have on the show right now are actually busy working behind the scenes, and it's harder to get them scheduled. It's not that they don't care about you, but they literally, when people say, that they serve at the pleasure of the president, they're working. They're working to like right this ship. And so that's where we are with that, okay? So please just be assured with that. And one thing that I wanted to ask to let you guys know, when we are, a couple of things. Okay, there's one thing that I want to say. Let me read this comment on Rumble, Maritak. Maritak is one of my a very good contributor to comments on Rumble and has also done Rumble rants before, so I appreciate that. Um, Dave Banwell says, "Do we need a code word for General Flynn?" That's possible, yeah, so maybe I just won't use his name anymore. Um, uh, maybe I just won't do that. Maybe I'll just come up with a code word for him, just like we talk about the jibber jabber. Let me think about that. Yeah. So if you see me announcing that so and so is gonna be on the show, and it doesn't even look remotely like somebody you've ever heard of, it's probably General Flynn. Maybe we'll just call him Barley George. Maybe we'll just say live with Barley George. Um, maybe. Okay, I'm whispering. So, here's what, Terry sorry, Chills on YouTube says. I wanna read this comment. Okay, she says he or she says, "Trump was raised Presbyterian, uh, and they keep things close to the vest too." Exactly. Um, all right. I want to say something about our friend John Haggart on Facebook. Some of you have seen his comments, some of you haven't. He is a veteran. He is a combat wounded veteran, disabled veteran. He has it's surgery, I think, and correct me if I get this wrong, Don. He has a procedure coming that is quite serious because of some injuries and issues that he suffered in combat. And so I want to ask you guys to keep him in your prayers. John Haggart, he is one of our faithful listeners on Facebook. He's 100% service connected, disabled veteran, and he is a ranger. So he has served our country faithfully, and he is going through some stuff. So please keep him in your prayers, okay? Please keep him in your prayers. And I all right, so Maritak, getting back to Maritak. People have to remember Trump is a real estate mogul and you don't get to where you are today for being nice and pleasant. You're dealing with many personalities in that industry. So that is really, really important to understand, and that's so when I say he's a baller, that's what I'm talking about, you know. He is he's just like you can't and this is one of the reasons that I think that having a woman in the chief executive office at this point in our country would be a bad idea. Because when it comes to negotiating and running a country and being the leader of the free world, I know that some of you are going to get mad at me. Um, I I don't think that women should be guarding the president in Secret Service. I don't think that women should be in combat, and I don't think that we should have a woman president. So there you go, and there's different reasons for that, but when it comes to having a woman president, I really think that detrimental to our country. I think that it would be harmful because of the type of negotiations and the type of world leaders that we're up against. They just don't have the respect for women that they do for men. And it's pretty obvious if you watch the way that world leaders respond to Trump. Many of them want him back in office, because they do respect him. Um, when you see the body language, when you see the way that they interact around him, it's obvious that we need somebody like him back in office, somebody who's not compromised, somebody who has integrity. And so, you don't have to, if you disagree with me on that, fine. That's okay. I don't care. Um, but Thrive for Real says 10 years ago that would have pissed me off, but now I totally agree. Right? I think it's just and one of the things I think if you watch what happened with the Secret Service, in Pennsylvania, that, uh, men have an instinct to protect women. And you could see even literally under fire, President Trump had an instinct to protect those women. That's just the way men are wired. Now, there are people who are still confused about that, about like what parts men have and what chromosomes they have and how their genetic makeup works. But I think that most of you are on the same page with me on this, that men have an instinct, a protective instinct to take care of women around them. That's just the way it is. Okay. But that was a little tangent. I just felt like we needed to go over. Let me look at the chat over here on Rumble. And I don't even know if we're live on X, but if we are, please retweet it. Now, there's something that I want to address. This has come up in a couple of live streams that I've done lately, and I have not addressed it, but I'm going to address it now. And this is it. I'm going to address it since I'm just on a roll and just being like gut level honest. So here we are. I've had people ask me, and I've had people ask me recently, and I've had people ask me in the past, and I've had people send me information from Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson is a personality, what would you call him? A live streamer, somewhat of an influencer who came on the scene rather suddenly, with a theory about continuity in government. He came kind of on the heels of a guy named Patel Patriot, and Derek Johnson contends that President Trump is still commander in chief, and that a lot of what you're seeing play out is a continuity of government. He does pull military documents and the code of military. How do you say it? The U.S. code, military code, into a lot of his discussions. He's actually been featured a number of times on Elijah streams. I've seen him. He was attending the Reawaken conference when I was there in May. I didn't meet him, but I saw him. He wasn't a speaker there, and I I know that there are people who really strongly believe that President Trump is still the commander in chief. That is the theory that Patel Patriot has. That's the theory that Derek Johnson has. And I haven't made a decision about that because I haven't done a deep dive into the research. I have read quite a bit of what Patel Patriot put out. Um, I am skeptical of some of the things that I have seen from Derek Johnson, because I have seen some glaring inconsistencies. And I've also seen a very strong, I don't, some people would call it self-assurance. I see a defensiveness and almost an arrogance in the way that he presents his materials. And again, it could just be a personal preference. Um, and Lynn Alicia has a good point. She says, "I think they say that because Trump actually won the election." Now, yeah, there's a theory along those lines, right? And I believe Trump won the election. And so there's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I just I don't really care to have Derek Johnson on the show. That's what it comes down to. He's just not my cup of tea. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't wanna have him on the show. I've watched his interviews, I've watched his live streams. I just made the decision that, that's just something that's just not where I wanna go with the show. And that's my decision. And so, I know people want me to have him on. You're asking me to have him on. People have asked me to have other people on the show. I've made a decision not to have them on. And so it's not even really personal against Derek Johnson. I pray about the content that I have on the show. I pray about the guests I have on the show. If I feel like I should change directions on that, I will. If and I'm not taking a stand on it. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying that Patel Patriot is wrong. I'm not saying that I've made a decision about what is and isn't going on. One thing that I do feel strongly about, though, is that I don't feel like we're in a simulation. I don't feel like we're, like, in a movie and that all of this is scripted. I don't think that's happening. Are there some people who have body doubles? Yes, I believe that. That's pretty common. But are there actors playing roles? It's a stretch. And so that's where I am. The buck stops with me on the show. I answer to God. I'm accountable to God for the content that I bring on. And I've had guests on the show that I sort of go back and think, I'm not so sure about what they said, that I agree with everything they said, and maybe I wouldn't have them on again. Um, and so again, I'm not calling into question Derek Johnson's faith. I'm not calling into question his sincerity. Um, I just he's just not my cup of tea. I don't want to interview him. That's it. That's all. That's where we are. There you go. Okay? So please respect that. And um, if you ask me to have him on, I don't want to. I don't. So yeah, just respect that. I appreciate it. Thank you. Um, it's funny when yeah, Eeyore says, "This is your show, Mary Grace. Follow the Holy Spirit." Exactly. Um, Meritak has some things to say about him. Okay. So again, I don't want to go down the road of I'm not bashing Derek Johnson. This is where I am. Okay. Now somebody Texas Liberty is saying, I do think there's something to the Q post. Looking at these posts now, what's going on, it's very compelling that there's some legitimacy there. Oh, I believe that. And I do not conflate the Q post with anything that Derek Johnson is doing. They are completely separate things. Uh, Derek Johnson has never been a Q person. He's never been a Q apologist. That's not where he is. And so just be very clear about that. I have had Praying Medic on the show, and we have talked about Q. And in fact, if you want a breakdown of Q, go to my Rumble and go and look up on my Rumble channel, Mary Grace Media, go and look up Conspiracy of Truth, episode 12. It was several months ago, and I did that with Praying Medic. That's a show that I do with Praying Medic. Conspiracy of Truth, episode 12. We went into a full 2+ hours of talking about Q. I'm very much of the mind that Q is legitimate and that Q taught us a great deal. So much of what you know today and so much of where you are in terms of questioning and having a healthy skepticism about the media, having a skepticism about the money that Congress is spending and the money laundering and the child trafficking and so many of these issues, they've come to the forefront because of Q. And a lot of people don't realize that. People who are sort of new to waking up and to being part of the truther movement, they don't even understand. They don't understand that they know about these things because of Q. And in fact, people who are criticizing Q most of the time have not either have not taken the time and they haven't really researched or read the drops. In fact, in fact, there's an article that came out from a group called Intercessors for America. They did a hit piece on Q, and they're calling it a cult, and they're saying that it's not biblical, which I think is hilarious because it tells me that they actually, the person writing it claims to have had some exposure to Q, and uh, I think that what happened with that person is that they probably went down some rabbit trails and abandoned the Q post because they felt, according to them, I think they felt like they were taking their eyes off of God, which maybe they were. But and then they used that personal experience to decide that Q was a bad thing because maybe they made bad decisions around Q. They allowed themselves to go down a rabbit hole and to get distracted from the pursuit of the Lord, and then they blamed Q for that. That's my read on it. And there's other things that they said about Q that just aren't that are just patently false. And so that just came out like yesterday. It was like a blog post. Um, so I actually it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible journalism. Okay. Uh, and I want to say one thing that there are things that people attribute to Q that Q never said. For example, this just reminds me, somebody on Rumble said, I've heard prominent people bash Q as saying JFK Jr. is alive. In fact, Q said that's not true. Q taught me to ask questions, so my do my own research, and I really started understanding. So, and then Dave is saying, I believe that Dave at 22 has a handle on Q's relevancy. Yeah, I think so too. Dave at X22 and Praying Medic have some different interpretations of Q, and that's okay. They they fall into different uh, tracks with some of their interpretations of the Q posts, and that's fine. They're actually friends, and so they're not going to agree on everything. And I think Q would be the first to tell you that we don't have to agree on everything, that we can still be friends. And one of the things that happened, um, in that's happened in the information war is that the media and the what do you call it? The globalists, the deep state, have actually used our disagreements to pit us against each other. And they have stoked division. There are Q posts that talk about that. They want you divided. And this is where, when I talk about the evangelicals and I talk about how they're embracing a religious spirit, I think that there are people in the movement who are being used to further division between Christians, between Christian groups, in levels of orthodoxy that cause Christians to think, oh, this person is my enemy, when in fact we really need to be working toward the same goals, which is saving our country. And if I had to sum up Q in just a couple of words, it would be that Q really challenged people to think about what's happening, to do the research, to question what you're being told, to question what you're being sold, and to question who benefits from everything that we're being told. Um, Listen, I want to shout out to my Rumble crowd right now. If you are on Rumble and you are getting some value from this conversation, please go and hit the thumbs up underneath that video. Hit the thumbs up. That helps to make sure that everybody sees us in the feed and in the replay. It gets it, higher up in the feed when people click on to Rumble to see what's on. That thumbs up is going to help. Also, comment, comment, comment. When you come back after the live stream ends, please leave a comment on every single channel that we're watching on, whether it's X, Facebook, Clout Hub, Getter, um, Rumble, YouTube. Anytime you leave a comment after the fact, that helps to push the video up in the stream so that other people can see it. One thing that I will say to you is that if you when you subscribe to the channel, that helps. Um, and I do have a private group on Facebook. I have a private subscription group on Facebook. And the reason that I have it on Facebook is because they actually offered it. And so if you're following me on Facebook, you can be part of that private group. You can get access to private conversations. You can get access to information before other people get it, things like that. And I'm working through what I'm going to offer with that. X hasn't offered me that yet. YouTube hasn't offered me that yet. And when they do, I'll take advantage of it. But that's where we are for now. Okay. So I do appreciate everybody subscribing, interacting, joining the chat, following the channels, turning on the turning on the notifications. All of those things help. And then the other thing that helps is when you subscribe to my email list right there, marygracemedia.com, marygracemedia.com. Get on that email list and make sure that you get an email notification when I go out, when I go live. I want to check something on Rumble right now because I think that we might actually be in their featured stream because I wrote to them and asked them to feature it because we were having you know who on the show. And our buddy Barley George, our good friend, that's what we'll call him, GF, good friend, good friend. So there's something that is happening. Let me see if we're on the live. There's something that's happening right now with the narrative. Um, Now one of the things Q taught us. Oh, see, no internet. One of the things that Q taught us was about the 4 a.m. talking points. Is everybody familiar with that? With the talking points, the narrative that gets pushed out by the three-letter agencies. Um, let's see, top live categories. Let me see if I'm in the live. Let's see. There we are, guys. Look. There we are. How about that? We're in the featured live. There we go. Isn't that cool? Thank you, Rumble, for doing that. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get back in the featured live when we get him back. But that's pretty cool. Valerie over on Rumble says, I followed Praying Medic every day when he broke down the Q drops when they occurred. Praying Medic really has the best insight on this, in my opinion. He was right there every minute, every day from 2017. Yes, he was. He was. And I think that it's pretty good, and Praying Medic is one of the people that was taken down off of YouTube the very minute that the story about the Hunter Biden laptop dropped. And that's not nothing, right? He has a very big influence, a very big reach, and his account was taken down. He had, I think, 250,000 or over that on YouTube, and his page was taken down unceremoniously, no warning, boom, gone, gone. And it's no accident that happened. There's a reason. There's a reason they try to take out the people that are spreading the truth. We've seen that happen quite a bit. Okay. So remember, go to marygracemedia.com. That's how you get on my mailing list. Everybody, please, whatever channel you're watching on, follow the channel. Please subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up wherever you're watching. If you're on Facebook, hit the hearts, hit the likes. If you're on Facebook, you can join my private community, which is under the subscribe badge. You can also give stars. And then the other thing I want to remind everybody today is that our featured affiliate partner is none other than our friends over at My Pillow. And you missed it yesterday. I did a little product review. I had my towels and my sheets right here on screen, and I was showing everybody just how amazing the quality is. and I absolutely love the kitchen towels. Right now are you can get the 6-pack for $25. I showed, how big they are, how, sturdy they are. The edges don't curl up when you wash and dry them. I've had the same set now that I've washed and dried multiple times, and the binding is as straight as the day that I got them. The same thing with the sheets. It's just incredible quality. So if you go over there to mypillow.com, use promo code Mary Grace, you're gonna get all of the savings. So every sale price that you see on the site, you will get that sale price in your cart when you put in the promo code Mary Grace. And a portion of everything that you buy from them, when you use my promo code, it does come back to the channel. And that's one of the things that helps us do what we're doing. So, for example, I have a backup hotspot that I'm using today to run this live stream. And guess what? When you help support Mary Grace Media, it pays for things like the backup hotspot. So it's very practical. And so we really do appreciate that when you support these America First companies. So mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. The sheets are starting at $25. The towels are starting at $25. How many of you are sending kids off to school or off to trade school or off to live in an apartment in the next month or so? Skip the big box stores. Don't buy the sheets and towels there. Get everything you need right at mypillow.com. Get it shipped to your house. Wash and dry everything. Have it ready. And then when you take them off to their dorm or their apartment, you've got it all ready. You don't have to fight the crowds at those big box corporatocracy stores. You can go to mypillow.com, use promo code Mary Grace. So that's it for that. And let me check the chat again. Catherine was asking, are you watching what is happening in Venezuela? Yes, we were talking about that. And that's one of the things that I was trying to talk with General Flynn about if we had gotten him on the show. Let me just check the comment over here on the Rumble. Okay, these are great comments. Here we go. Oh, yes, I was talking about the narrative and then I got distracted. Thank you, Texas Liberty, for reminding me of this. So we were talking about 3 a.m. talking points, and then I went down another rabbit trail. Here's the thing. Has everybody noticed what the media is doing now? What is the key word that they have been instructed to use to describe President Trump and JD Vance? Can anybody in the chat give us the word that the Mockingbird media has been told to use? Go ahead and put it in the chat. What is the word that is that they're being instructed to use right now? How are they being instructed to drive the narrative? What is the Mockingbird media saying about Trump and his followers? Um, that's the word. Yes, the word is there, and I think we're going to go ahead and type it in the chat because then that's going to bring more eyeballs to my feed because obviously they want that word to trend. Eeyore says on Rumble, have a great day, Mary Grace. Bless you and your family with much love sent your way. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Magnolia says, I'm all for equal rights, but I have to agree, no woman president. We need a man for strength. Not that a woman can't, but in certain cases, it just needs to be man to man. Makes sense? Absolutely. Okay. So I see that word. Everybody's putting that word in the chat. Yes, that is what they are telling them. They have received their marching orders, and I put a video up on my Facebook with it, and you can just see it's just a montage of all of the talking heads in the Mockingbird media going, "That's weird. He's weird. He's weird. He's weird. He's weird. 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 Weird." Okay. If you don't see it, and if you have friends and family who still think that the media is independent and that they're thinking for themselves and then that they're not just paid teleprompter readers, go grab that video off of my Facebook. You are free to download it and send it out to everybody that you know and say, okay, really? Do you really think that they are independent thinkers, that this is independent journalism, or might there be an agenda behind what they're telling you? And if they are talking in lockstep about this, what else have they told you that they've been ordered to tell you? That would be the question that I would ask. If they're all coordinated in their messaging around Trump, is this new or is it a pattern? Is it an indication of something bigger and uh, ongoing where they have been coordinating their messaging to manipulate you? That's what I would ask, right? Uh, Obamala, Obamala Harris. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my goodness. Excellent. Excellent. I love it. Yep. So the word is weird. They've been instructed to use that word. How long do you think it'll last? How long before they realize that we're onto them and that we are switching the narrative up on them? That's what I wanna say. One thing that I do want to encourage everybody is, make sure uh, that you continually keep the subject of the attempted assassination of President Trump at the forefront, because the search engines and the media are trying to bury it. They're trying to minimize it. They are trying to memory hole it, and it's really important that you don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. Okay, now there's something that I wanted to share with you since we're bouncing around here. When it comes to speaking up on issues, something happened recently that I wanted to share that I did, and I actually saw results. I spoke up about something and I made a little bit of noise. I made a little bit of noise about it because I felt it was important, and that is this, and some of you know about this because I told you, but I went to Costco a couple weeks ago, like I think it was the 6th of July, and I walked in with my dad, and don't lecture me for going to Costco, we have our reasons for going there. But we went in, and we were walking around, and I heard this noise. I heard a screaming noise. It was just an eerie demonic kind of noise. And I looked, and in the middle of the store, near where they put all the seasonal stuff and the books, I don't know how your Costco is, but they have a middle section. It's kind of between the side aisles. There it's always right in the middle before you get back to the produce and the frozen foods where they have all the camping stuff, seasonal. They had I looked over there and there was a giant skeleton, and we're talking like 10 feet tall. And then there was a giant it was a werewolf, and it was one of those electric yard feature things that moves, and it was screaming. It was a demon. They had a demon in the Costco, and it was loud. It was very loud. And we went all the way back to the back, all the way back to the milk section and the freezer section. You could still hear this thing. And then we needed to get some coffee, so we went around to the coffee, and so we were in the perimeters of the store. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm very sensitive to things like that, especially as a musician, a singer, as a Christian, noises like that, and even visually, I don't I don't like things like that. I don't wanna be near them. And, but the problem is that this thing was so big and so loud that it was really hard to get away from it. Like, no matter where you went in the store, it was there. And so I went up to the service desk on the way out, and I said something about it. I just said, "Hey, what is going on here? Why do you have this werewolf demon screaming in the middle of the store?" I said, "First of all, it's July and you're putting out Halloween decorations. What's up with that? But second of all," I said, this is really offensive to me as a Christian." I said, "We don't do Halloween and we definitely don't do demons. And so why do you have this up? Would you consider taking it down?" And I put a they said, "Yeah, the guy said, you're not the first person to say something about that." And they said, "Please leave a comment card and the manager will call you back." So I did that and then I didn't hear back. And so I called again and they said, "Well, the manager is on vacation, but they do look at these things." Long story short, I didn't let it go. I called again because I didn't want to go back in the store, and I told them that. I said, "This is actually very discriminatory against Christians." And so I finally got in a conversation with the manager, and I told her what I thought about this. I don't know if you guys are still there or if it's just you're quietly listening to my story. Um, Give me a thumbs up if you're still there, especially on the Facebook, if you can still hear me. But so I told the manager, I was very, I was very calm about it. I just said, "Look, this is an issue because, as a Christian, this is not just a prop. This is not just a toy. You have a giant demon and a skeleton in the middle of the store that is not only visible, but that I can hear. I can't escape it." And so as a Christian, it's actually very difficult for me to shop in your store. And if you don't change it, then I'm actually prevented, it keeps me out of your store until maybe the end of October. I just have to shop somewhere else, maybe suspend my membership. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not comfortable being in that store, and I think that other Christians probably aren't comfortable either. They're just not as willing to talk about it as I am. I'm not gonna hold back. But I said, I think that I'm speaking for other Christians here." And so the manager said, "At the very least, we can turn the volume down." And so that's where we left it, and, of course, they said, "This is something that comes from corporate, right? W we I will put your comments in," and I said, "This is a religious issue. This is an issue about Christians." I said, "Because I think that if somebody from another religion came to you and said that they were offended by these decorations, you probably would take action." And so I wanna be very clear that when it comes to Christians and Jews, sometimes our feelings and our religious beliefs and objections are not taken seriously, but I want them to be. I wanna make it very clear that that's important to me and to other Christians. And so we went there the other day, and guess what? You couldn't hear the demon. And in fact, it was quiet. And so I don't know if they took it down, I have to go back and see, but the sound was off. And I'm telling you that because it's, we're we need to stand up. We need to make ourselves heard. We need to make our voices heard. And if we don't, if we just go on and go along to get along, then the things that we are dealing with are gonna continue to happen. Right? Because what you accept, what you allow will continue. All right? Dave is saying, "Do we need a like a Bud Light campaign on Costco?" Well, here's what I would suggest. I would suggest if you are a Costco member, now it is a private club, okay? They don't have to allow you in there. But if you're a Costco member, I do suggest that you contact your Costco and ask them. Like, go in, see if they have that display, and if it's making noise, just, put a comment in, because, there aren't that many Costcos in the world, and the more people complain that like, Costco is one of those companies that does take into consideration what their members say and think and want, and so if members complain about putting up Halloween decorations in July, and if they complain about having a demon, uh, monopolizing and taking over the center of the store, that will be taken into consideration. So do it respectfully, but definitely let them know. Just go in and say, "Look, this is demonic. This is against my faith as a Christian. We don't entertain demons, and I certainly don't want them coming into my audio visual space. However, if you continue to have this up in the store, I will be forced to take my business elsewhere, and to you know, I will leave here with the understanding that you don't take the feelings and the religious beliefs of Christians into consideration. That's what I can conclude by your choice to feature a screaming demon prominently in the middle of your store. That's how I said it, basically. Valerie on Rumble just gave me a Rumble rant. That's awesome. Thank you so much. If you're on Rumble, you can do something called Rumble Rants, and that money goes to the channel and it goes to Mary Grace Media. If you're on Facebook, you can do stars, and somehow the stars feature may or may not be working, but I think it works. It's just it's not always. I don't know. We're trying to get to the bottom of that, but the Rumble rants are working. So thank you so much for that Rumble rant. That's awesome. Thank you, Valerie. Appreciate that. Um, all right. So let me see if there's any comments. Okay. I think it's Nancy on Rumble says the Pennsylvania governor did his little joke about Trump being weird for hugging the flag. He will likely be Kamala To's VP running mate. Yeah. See, there you go. Just me said I got kicked off Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, some people are kicked off. But I have a great audience on Facebook, so I really, the my Facebook audience has given me a lot of love, and the people that run Facebook are awful in some ways, but I've had a lot of growth there, and it's because I have such a good audience there, and I want to give you guys a shout out and thank you for being such a good Facebook audience. It's fantastic. And the people that run Facebook truly are weird. And, and so but in spite of that, we're growing and getting the truth out, and a lot of people are interacting and sharing a lot of what I put on Facebook. So please share this broadcast today. And once again, if you're coming in and you are upset that you didn't get to see our good friend GF, good friend, if you didn't get to see good friend, General Flynn, it's because the demons conspired to keep the stream off the air. Okay, so that's what happened. Um, all right, guys. So I think that's it. That's all we've got for today. And I thank you again, Rumble, for featuring us in the live. Thank you to all my Facebook audience for being here. And let's see what's happening over on X. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Let me see how many thumbs up we got. We've got over 200 watching live on Rumble, and we've got 51 thumbs up. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Can we get it over 100? Can we get over 100 thumbs up? And can we get people to leave comments after the fact on Rumble? When you come back for the replay, leave a comment. Oh, there's one other thing I need to say about Rumble. Rumble um, there's a little bit of a bot problem on Rumble, and there's a little bit of an imposter problem on Rumble. There are people on Rumble that are setting up imposter accounts for Mary Grace. I want you to know that there is only one Mary Grace Media on Rumble. That's me. It's at Mary Grace Media. There's no numbers. That's how you spell it, media. And when you're on Rumble, make sure that that whenever you see a comment, let me show you this. Okay. I want you to see something. You see that little green shield next to my name on Rumble? You see that? Diamond or whatever you call it? See that? That means that it's a verified account on Rumble. And so if you ever get a comment on Rumble from an account that is looking somewhat like Mary Grace, if it doesn't have that green verified shield, it is not me. If you get any comments asking you to go to a Telegram channel or to a Nasara Jasara channel, to a crypto deal, any of that, please report those and send me an email with a screenshot and let me know, or even just, click on the profile and send me the link, because I will report that to Rumble as well, and we'll get it taken down. But please, please, please don't click on their stuff. Don't give them the time of day, but do report them to Rumble and block them, because those are imposter accounts that are actually trying to make money off of my account. So please, please know that there's only one Mary Grace Media on Rumble. There's only one Mary Grace Media on Facebook. That account is not verified yet, but we're working on it. But that's it. Okay, so I think we're good. I think that's it for today. I really appreciate everybody being here. Hit those thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up on Rumble, follow the channel, subscribe to Mary Grace Media, consider joining my private group on Facebook. That is the private subscription that you can do. It's $4.95 a month, and we will have a nice little tribe over there if you can do that. Eventually, once we get enough people, we will move our private group probably to another platform where we have no censorship. But for now, that's where we are. So it's a subscription thing where you can have access to exclusive content, early content, before other people get to see it, things like that. More face-to-face interaction, more what do you call it, messaging, things like that from me. So please take part in that. All right, that's it. So thank you again for being here. Again, I'm Mary Grace. This didn't exactly go the way we wanted it to, because we had major, major interference on the channel and on the internet. Of course, now the internet is back. And does that surprise you? So I have a show on Friday, and it's one of our favorite people, and I'm not going to say the name of the person because it's yeah, because I'm not going to say it, but I think it's at 3 o'clock. Let me just double check. There's a live stream at 3 o'clock on, what's Friday the 2nd? Yes, 3 p.m. Be back for my live stream at 3 p.m. on Friday. And thank you guys for being here. This was nice. It turned out good in spite of the glitches that we had. Oh, here's a good comment. The internal management at Costco is falling apart. I know people who still work there, as did I for 20 years, left 10 years ago by the grace of God. Interesting. Well, if they're going woke like everything else, then that explains it. And that explains why they've got demons and Halloween decorations up in July. Okay, Dave is asking the code name. The code name for our favorite general is Barley George. Barley George. All right. So if you see me doing a live stream with Barley George, with our good friend Barley George, then you know. Get in here, guys. Get in here. All right. I will see you back. I'll see you back here, and we will have more great live streams together. Everybody get outside, touch some grass, get in the sunshine, take a minute to breathe, but then get right back at it, because you are needed to save this country. Tell the truth. Don't be afraid. Stand up. Let your voice be heard, and don't major on the minors. That's it. Have a great day, everybody. I can't even get it to turn off. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let's play our commercial since I can't get it to turn off. Let's play the commercial. Here we go.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow,